Hello Dana, see more better here with rxsteampunkgoggles.com, and today I'm going to deviate from the steampunk as I have expanded. I've gotten so many requests to do some vintage glasses, since steampunk and vintage go hand in hand. This is a vintage cat eye frame with lots of wonderful bling on there that you bought online, and then no one in your hometown would be willing to put your prescription in here because they were afraid to work with this frame, which is very common on vintage frames. Since I have my own lab, I'm a licensed optician with 21 years of experience. It is no problem for me to cut lenses for your frame, although I will be very careful naturally, as I would be with any frame. But you have a Ray-Bert, kind of interesting, not a Ray-Ban, a Ray-Bert. Hopefully my camera is good enough to pick that up. Frame that is made in France. This is the Collier 68, patent pending. I wonder how that patent turned out. This frame is probably about 40 or 50 years old, 60, possibly 70 years old. I wonder how that patent came along, but nonetheless, let's go ahead and begin. I'm going to put your frame into the tracing element of my blocker and hit start. Everybody wants to know, how does the computer know what shape lens to cut? This is why a little stylus goes around and traces the inside bevel of the right side of the frame before doing the same thing on the left. There might be microscopic differences, ever so slightly nuanced in size or shape on vintage frames due to the care of them over the past 50 to 60 years, and the computer takes that into account. That is the shape of the lens we'll be cutting. Let's go ahead and bring it up to the next screen. It will be magnified. That green outline, if I were to minify it down to the actual size, you can see that shape there. And so I'm going to set this here. Now, these are your lenses. These are progressive lenses, the invisible bifocal. I've already, to save on time, and by the way, I'm going to go over the 10-minute time limit on YouTube that all the YouTube channel masters say you can't go over 10 minutes on a YouTube video. Well, come with me on this journey. So to save on time, I went ahead, it comes with paint on your lens. I've cleaned that up. I've marked them up to know which is right and left. This black dot is going to sit directly in front of your pupil. I'm going to go ahead and place the lens onto the platform there. Now this is a block, or as I like to call them, Jenny from the block. I need to attach this to your lens while it is cutting. This is what's going to hold it inside in the lathe as it is cutting. So I need two double-sided adhesive stickers, of which I've got two left here. Let me put that back in there. The black side is the sticky side. I'm going to stick one onto the first block, drop it on the platform, do the same thing for the second block. Now on the back is a little silver button. That is a magnet. That's going to do its job twice today. The first time is right now. It's going to attach itself to something magnetical there in the arm. I'm going to pull the paper away to make the black side sticky. Line up that magnet with the one there. Now where's my stylus? Here it is. Now your pupillary distance is 34 for your right eye. Your pupillary distance, also known as the PD, is the width from the center of one pupil to the center of the other pupil, going, if this were your nose in the center, going outward in each direction. You are very rare. You are the same in each eye. You are 34 millimeters to your right eye. You are 34 millimeters to your left eye. So the computer starts at 32. I'm going to tap the plus button. A couple times it goes up in half millimeter increments till we arrive at 34. Now the optical center, the height of where your progressive lens will be, is at 20 millimeters. So I'm going to raise that up. Again, it's going to go up in 0.5 millimeters, 18, 18.5, 19, 19.5, 20. Now, if you can see that orange graph, that is known as the layout. I'm going to change the layout to from a single vision lens. If you only needed these for distance, computer, or reading, I'm going to change that to progressive. It's a different layout, a different graph. I am going to, the reason why I put the three dots, that is the optical center, and the other two dots tells me that it's oriented in there just perfectly. So the blue cross is the geometric center of your frame. If you were to measure vertically and then horizontally, that blue cross is right there. This is just a little graph that the lens sits on, and sometimes they get in the way, so I'm moving it so I can see the dots perfectly. But your optical center goes there. These other two dots will be lined up on this line, telling me that it's in there straight. and that it is. I'm going to look at everything here just quickly for a moment. We are good. You can see the outline of the lens itself that's large enough to fit into the frame. And once I know that everything, moving it off, I see a little speck on the lens. Don't want it to distract from the other dots that are there. I do apologize for taking a little bit longer, but I should not apologize for wanting to do my best job possible. This is what a master craftsman does. You check, you recheck, and then you cut. So everything's lined up. That's where it's supposed to be. I'm going to hit that button. The arm's going to come down and place the block. Ah, it didn't want to stick, did it? Okay, let's see. Why did it not want to stick? That's an interesting one. Let's go back to the right lens. Never had that happen before. You know, these $40,000 piece of equipment never make you proud when you want them to. So let's try this again. Get everything laid out just right. Hit the button. Now it's on there. And let's stick that on there really well. Press down on it. Same thing for the left lens. Now, if your pupillary distance was different for your left eye than your right, I would change that now, because the left just mirrors what the right has done. You are the same. You are mirrored for this one time. And of course, the same optical center height for you as well. So I'm going to pull the paper away to make the black side sticky, line that up. Again, get all the dots lined up in there perfectly. The PD, the pupillary distance, is where it's supposed to be. Those other two dots are where they are supposed to be. Get everything lined up perfectly. Check one thing. We're good to go there. I'm going to hit that button, and the arm's going to come down and place the block onto the left lens. It stuck that time. I don't know. I've never seen it not stick before. I do work. Now, your lenses have transitions brown feature as well as the Crizal. Sometimes the Crizal is a hydrophobic surface where it doesn't like water, and that's what makes the dust and dirt repel off your lens, but I've never had it not stick before. So let's see. Now, this is the actual edger. This is what costs $40,000 combined. $30,000 for this, $10,000 for that. It weighs 200 pounds. I recommend everyone go out, buy their own, put it on your kitchen counter. Then you can cut your own lenses at home. You won't need this guy anymore to cut lenses for your vintage frame for you. The actual cutting wheel is going to act, is here on the edge. It's going to act like a heavy grit sandpaper to grind away your lens material. This wheel in the center with that channel, that little valley, that's what's going to put the V-shaped bevel on the edge of your lens, so it stays inside the bevel of the frame. This wheel on the end is a polishing wheel, which we won't be using. I usually only use those on completely rimless frames, on some of the vintage or the newer ones, because this also cuts all the new frames as well. So I'm going to pull up the shape onto the computer. That is the shape of the lens we will be cutting today for your cat eye. These are polycarbonate lenses. If they were plastic, high index plastic or Trivex, I would select that, but these are polycarbonate. I'm not going to polish the edge of your lens, as we spoke before. I could put a safety bevel on the front and rear of your lens, but there's no need to do one on the front of your lens in this frame, and I'm only going to put a safety bevel on the rear concave surface of your lens. And that concludes your vocabulary lesson of the day. I'm going to hit this green. Well, let me put the lens in here. And now the magnet is going to do its job a second time today. It's going to attach itself to something magnetical there here in the chuck. This is what's going to hold the lens in place while it is cutting. So I'm going to put that back in there. I'm going to place the lens into the chuck, or as I like to call it, the Charles, because I just don't know this machine well enough to call it chuck. I'm going to hit the green arrow, which is start in every language. The door closes, the clamp shuts. And then the lens is going to be traced by two white styluses, making sure that it's large enough to fit into the frame. And you can see as it's going around tracing the shape. And then the old carpenter saying measure twice, cut once. It's measuring the thickness of the lens at every point to know exactly and precisely where to place the bevel, so you have the least amount of edge thickness showing. Of course, with your prescription in this frame, you won't have any edge thickness. But because I can cut any prescription out there, there's no prescription too difficult. That does become more of a factor with the higher prescriptions. Now, if you see light flickering in the background, that is water there to catch the optical sawdust as it comes off of the lens. Polycarbonate lenses cut dry, where plastic, high index plastic, and Trivex cut wet. Water will spray onto the cutting wheel for the last 20 seconds of the cutting cycle, just to wash away any optical debris that may be left over from the cutting process. But as I mentioned, your lenses are made out of polycarbonate, which are 40% thinner and lighter than regular plastic. Your lenses are virtually unbreakable. They are high impact lenses. They have 100% UVA and UVB protection built into the lens. We know what the sun's harmful ultraviolet rays can do to your skin, where your eyes are 8 times more sensitive than your skin. So you have permanent sunscreen for your eyes, unlike the lotions, creams, and sprays that need to be reapplied every couple hours when you're in direct exposure to the sun. This is permanent and never needs to be reapplied. Now you also have, I'll demonstrate the transitions later, but you also have the Crizal anti-glare coating. Crizal is 3 features in one. The first feature is that it eliminates glare when driving at night, particularly driving at night in the rain, but from street lights, stoplights, computer screens, overhead, fluorescent lights, and the such. It also goes by the initials ARC, which stands for anti-reflective coating, so it reduces the reflections off of your lens. So when someone's looking at you, gracious, don't worry, that was not your lens. When someone's looking at you, they're not looking at the reflection in your lens, they see just your eyes, so it makes for much better eye contact. Plus, it also makes your lenses look thinner, which you don't have to worry about, but people with stronger prescriptions do. But the other nice feature is, as far as reflections, if someone takes a picture with a flash, or if you take a selfie, you won't see the reflection lit up in your lens. The other nice feature, your lens is aspheric. A spherical lens is completely round in every direction. It gives you that ugly cosmetic fishbowl appearance when someone's looking at you. So you don't have to worry about that. It fits, aspheric lenses are flatter and fits into the flatter vintage curvatures. So I custom make every lens. I am a licensed optician, so you're going to get the best lens possible for the frame that you are wearing. But the Crizal anti-glare coating takes over 24 hours to vaporize 8 different coatings onto your lens. So because of the time and the expense, they put the industry's hardest scratch protection onto your lens to protect your time and investment. So I'm going to take the lens out of the Chuck, the Charles, the Chucky baby, dry everything off, run my thumbnail around to make sure there's no optical debris or any residual schwarf, as it is known by. May the schwarf be with you, but it's not, because I've removed it all. So I'm starting at the outside corner. I'm going to tuck the lens in at the outside corner first. And then using my thumb, I go to press down at the nose, and it's real snug. It doesn't want to go in there, so I'm not going to force it. I'm going to take it down 1/10 of a millimeter. Here is the sizing. I'm going to take it down 0.05, 0.10, so that is 1/10 of 1 millimeter, and I'm going to hit retouch. Just like before, the door closes, but this time the lens is going to bypass the cutting wheel and go straight to the bevel wheel. It's going to take 1/10 of a millimeter off. A millimeter is the distance between my thumbnails. I'm going to take 1/10 of that distance off until it pops into the frame easily. I do not want to force the frame into the lens. Let's rewind that. Check correction. I do not want to force the lens into the frame. I was just seeing if y'all were paying attention. If I were to force it in there on a newer frame, it would cause the frame, what we in the business call roll. If you imagine your frame to be like a gutter, which it is, if the lens were too large, it would force your frame to roll outwards, giving you an ugly cosmetic look, as well as shortening the life of the frame. Now you have a vintage frame. I do not know what condition the plastic is. I do never want to force a lens into a vintage frame, because I could cause it to crack. Now in just a moment, I will open this door with my mind. You like that? I can do other things with my mind. I can melt ice with my mind. I just have to stare at it for a couple hours, but I can do it. So I'm going to dry the lens off. We're going to see if it fits this time. Again, not wanting to force it. I'm going to tuck the lens in at the outside corner. Then using my thumbs, press down at the nose. Still not crazy about it. Let me see if I can get it back out. This has a very unique bevel. It's almost winged right there. I'm just going to see a couple things here. Yeah, let's take it down another 1/10 of a millimeter. This is going to prolong things a couple minutes. But again, I am a perfectionist. I cut every pair of lenses that get shipped worldwide. I'm going to make sure that every pair of lenses is perfect before it ever leaves my lab. That's what you get with me. That's why everyone's afraid to cut lenses for this frame. She had nowhere else she could turn to. So if there's anyone else out there who bought frames online, it could be a new frame, it could be a vintage frame, but I can put the lenses in there for you. I do other cosplay, so if you have other masks or anything else you would like me to put lenses in, no problem. Now here's something that while I was talking, you haven't seen. This lever that came out has a spinning wheel on it, something you would see at the end of a Dremel tool. That's what's applying the safety bevel to the rear surface of the lens. Should any portion of this lens come out of the back surface of the frame and come into contact with your cheek, the edges of that lens will be smooth. Let's open that up, take the lens out, dry it off again so it's not slippery. Now again, you're not going to have any edge thickness with your prescription in this frame, but again, I do cut. No prescription is too difficult, so should any of that prescription come out of the back surface of the lens, come in contact with the cheek, it will be nice and smooth. That is unique. That bevel is moved very far back there. And let's go old school. Let's try something new here. That bevel is very far back. There we go. That snapped in easily. The other thing, forcing it in, it could pop your jewels from coming off. I never want to do that. So the right lens takes the longest. Once we have the right lens down, we can flip this over to do the left. Push this down, and just like before, put the lens into the chuck, hit the start button, the door closes, the clamp shuts, and then the lens is going to be traced again by the two white styluses, making sure that it's large enough to fit into the frame, which we already know. But you can see as it's tracing out the shape, following my finger, there we go, we're at the top. And again, the old carpenter saying measure twice, cut once. It's measuring the thickness of the lens at every point to know exactly and precisely where to place the bevel so you have the least amount of edge thickness. And of course you have none with your prescription in this frame. So while the left lens is cutting, let's go ahead and continue to work on the right. I'm going to pop this block off. I recycled this little plastic sleeve only to make artwork, not to use it again, but I'm making a big piece of artwork that one day is going to be very beautiful. Mark my words. It may be the ugly duckling now, but so I'm going to put it in just above that black dot, which we see here. This is my trusty and dusty Marco 101 lensometer. This is how I read the power of your prescription. I'm going to put the axis wheel on 81, and when I read the power, I'm getting -1 1/4. I'm one tick mark away from 1. We have 150, 175, 2. Now the unit of measurement we use in the optical world is called a diopter, spelled D-I-O-P-T-E-R. It starts at 0 and goes up in quarter increments from there, 0.25, 0.50, 0.75, 1, 1 1/4. So you're on the 5th rung of a ladder. You need 5 steps of far-sighted correction. Dana, you are actually nearsighted with your glasses off. Everything is much too large. That is why you need lenses that will minify. That is why there is a minus sign. Your lenses minify 5 steps to make everything the correct size. Now once it's the correct size, we need to correct for your astigmatism, also known as the cylinder. Astigmatism is what makes 6s and 8s look alike, or the letters P and F. There is a stigma over the word astigmatism. It is not a disease. It is not an affliction. It's like saying someone has straight hair, someone else has curly hair. You don't freak out when you hear that. But everyone freaks out over the word astigmatism, and I don't know why. So you need 5 steps of correction for farsighted. You need an additional 3 steps of astigmatic correction to make everything nice and crisp. So let's check that. And we end up at -2. And how did we get there? That's because, remember high school algebra where you add 2 like signs together? Yeah, don't worry, I've forgotten it too. Let's use today's term. Someone borrowed $1.25 from you and then they borrowed another 75 cents. They would owe you $2 total. That's where we're at, $2 in the red. So these first 2 numbers are real values to be concerned with. This 81 essentially is the fine-tune knob. When you think of astigmatism, again, that's the fine-tune to take away the crispness. A straight line is 0 at the cap. It's 90 to 180. So we're going to turn that fine-tune knob almost to 90 to about 81. Now your left eye, you need 7 steps of farsighted correction. Dana, I want you to open the door with your mind this time. Hey, that's pretty good. First day on the job and you already did it. So those of you who believe in who don't believe in telekinesis, raise my hand. Oh, it's working, I guess. Even though you don't believe in it, it must be real. So you need 7 steps of farsighted correction, but you need no astigmatism correction in your left eye. That's why there is no axis number. There's no fine-tune knob that we need to turn to. And if you guys missed any of that, let me recap. You're not getting away with that one bad joke in this thing. So let's come down here. Let's see if your lens fits perfectly this time, or if we need to take it down a little bit more. I'm going to dry everything off so it is not slippery. Make sure there's no optical debris on the edges of the lenses. Clean everything off. And again, tuck the lens in at the outside corner and push down at the nose. And the reason I push down at the nose, the thickest part of the frame is right here at the bridge. So when I apply pressure, that's where I want to apply it at. And actually, the little sticker came off, so I can't take it down on the machine anymore. So let's go old school. I'm going to come over here. This is a handstone. It's just like a diamond cutting wheel. It has that little bevel on there too. I am going to turn this on and go old school, and I'm going to take a little bit off of your lens, going all the way around, just like the machine would have done, until it snaps in easy. So let's try. I'm going to tuck it into the outside corner again, using my thumbs, press down at the nose. A little bit more. Now, most people would use heat. This is actually a little heater, nothing more than a $200 hair dryer that blows heat out, but I do not want to heat the frame up again, because it would cause the frame to stretch, or the lens being there too tight. Plastic becomes pliable with heat, and it's a way to rush to do things. But once it cools, your lens is going to be in there very snug, and I don't want it to be snug inside of a vintage plastic frame, especially with this being the winter. Today is December 31st, the last day of 2017, and I want these to be cute for you for 2018 and beyond. And as long as I take very good care of this frame while I'm working on it, there's no reason this frame will not be in a vintage store 40 years from now, and someone else will be wearing them, Dana, long after you no longer need them. Now, I'm not going to say long after you're gone, because hopefully you're going to live as long as me. There, it snaps in there easily. I can go ahead and turn that off. Let's come down here to the lensometer. I'm going to put it in over that black dot. And I don't have to adjust the axis wheel. I'm just going to read the spherical component of your lens, which is -175. -175, one tick mark away from 2. We're at 1, 1 1/4, 150, 175, 2. If it was stronger, it would keep going. Now, your pupillary distance is 34 for each eye, for a total of 68. I'm going to turn this card around and hold up my PD stick against your right lens on my thumb, and then when we read it on the, let's see if this one's getting worn out. Let's trade this in and get a newer one. Let's do the same thing here, and we're getting 68 millimeters when we hold it up to the left lens, so that is cut perfectly. Now, this is the other thing I do, that while I'm cleaning your lenses, I like to make sure that the frame is in standard alignment, also known as a 3-point stance. Now, when you get these in the mail, and of course free shipping anywhere in the US, but when you get these in the mail, there's a small chance that these could be too loose or too tight. However, there's an 80% chance that one side is going to be sitting higher than the other. And because of that statistic, 99% of all optical shops would do free adjustments if you ask them, but I'm going to get them in standard alignment first, also known as a 3-point stance. Hang on, I thought I saw something on your lens. Also known as a 3-point stance. The three points are 1, 2, and the bottom of the frame being 3. I set them on the counter and press down. There is no wobble. When I say wobble, I'm part of that 99%. When I take mine off, they wobble on the counter, but they sit level on me. This is higher because my right ear is lower than my left. The birthing process is tough for all involved, not just mom. But I'm going to flip this over, press down. There is no wobble. I close each temple to make sure they overlap perfectly and neither one is askew. Because with vintage frames, I'm going to go ahead and tighten these up ever so slightly. I'm just going to make sure everything is in great working order. That's a little too tight. Let me back that off. And that is uniform. That is perfect. So this is what your lenses look like clear inside of your vintage frame. You have the transitions brown element of your lenses, so I want to go ahead and and activate that, which means I'm going to expose them to a strong burst of ultraviolet light. This is my little transitions box that my Kleenex sits on. So I'm going to close the temples. I'm going to put it in here and hit the start button. And as you can see, it takes about 30 to 45 seconds for transition lenses to darken when you go outside. It takes a little bit longer when you come back inside, 45 seconds to a minute 15. Now, Dana, this is important. Pay attention. All transition lenses get dark on day 1 and continue to darken every day for the first 2 weeks they're exposed to the sun. After that, they will work for years with maximum performance. The only time they won't work is if you're behind the windshield of a car. Your windshield absorbs all the sun's harmful ultraviolet light that would cause your dashboard to crack from sitting in the sun all day, or for your upholstery to rot. And that's why transition lenses don't get dark in a car. Now, if you have a convertible or a motorcycle, they will darken. Now, Transitions Extra Active, which is a newer lens, will get about 30 to 50% in a car. And they also get darker in hotter weather, which I should just go ahead and explain. That transitions are also temperature sensitive, meaning they will get darker when it's 85 degrees and below than they will when it's 95 and above. But I remind everyone, when it's 100 degrees outside, you're miserable, your lenses are miserable. Nobody works 100% when it's 100 degrees outside. But Transitions Extra Active are designed for active people who spend a lot of time outdoors, and they will get darker in hotter weather. If you live in a state that stays continually hot, Florida, Texas, California, you may want to think about the Transitions Extra Active. They do cost a little more, but they do more. So this is the first time your lenses have been activated. The Transitions Brown, they will continue to darken every day for the first couple of weeks. Come on, Dana, we talked about that, don't you remember? So as I continue to talk, about a minute from now, your lenses will return back to clear. So if you guys like what you have seen, please subscribe to my YouTube channel for RX Steampunk Goggles. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram as RX Steampunk Goggles, and on, what am I on Twitter? I think I am, I should know this stuff. I think I'm just RX Steampunk because my username is just too long for Twitter. So, if anyone has a question or a comment, please leave it in the comment section below. You can always email me at rxsteampunkgoggles@gmail.com, or simply click the contact me button on the website. But please leave a question or a comment down below in the comment section, because you may ask a question that someone else didn't think of. And when they read that, it can really benefit them, and you're helping out other people while you're helping yourselves, which is always a big plus. So again, subscribe to my channel. Dana, I hope you enjoyed watching as I cut Transitions. Where's my little flashlight? Transitions Brown lenses with Crizal anti-glare for your Raybert. What a great name. Raybert Collier 68. And as you can see, it was not that hard to cut lenses for your frame, even though no one else would come close to touching this because they were afraid of what to do. And we do live in a lawsuit-driven nation. No one wants to break anyone's frame. I certainly don't want to break your frame while working on it. But that's how I showed you. It takes an extra few minutes to be very careful, but it's so worth the effort. That's the difference between ordinary and extraordinary, is that little bit extra in the beginning. I know it's a corny phrase, but it is so true. Just take your time, do the job right. But so many places are in such a hurry now, they just can't take the time, or they're even scared to work on a frame like this. So you can see I had nothing to be scared of. I showed you the whole time. You can see as your lenses have almost returned back to clear. But that's it. I'm glad you guys have watched. Please share this video with anyone else who is either a steampunk fan or likes vintage frames, and they have some vintage frames and they don't know how to put their prescription in them. And it doesn't have to be prescription. I can put fashion lenses. I can put clear lenses, as you can see, that turn transitions even in non-prescription. I can do tinted lenses, turn anything into sunglasses. I can do polarized lenses. I can do monocles, whatever you guys need. If you have a vintage frame, and of course, if you need everyday eyewear too, my main site is freeprescriptionlenses.com. So I can do your vintage and your everyday pair. Just get me in the game, coach. There's nothing I can't do now that you've seen what I'm capable of. And hopefully everyone else has got the chance to see how I bring that love and feeling back to glasses. Thank you.